All of us search for what is our purpose in life. Why are we here? And when you have that moment, when God speaks to you and says, you are supposed to do this, it becomes so clear.
God told me to go. I was in church and I heard very clearly in my ear, go to Russia. I said a little silent prayer and I said, Father, I'll go. You're going to have to help me. Please help me to clear the roadblocks away from my path. And He made it possible for me to go.
One of the things I told people when they said, well, what are you doing, before I went on the trip, whether it was at church or work or wherever, I said, okay, so you're going to an orphanage to help rebuild something? And I said, no, we're going to give hugs.
Orphans face a world without family, a world without hope. Today in Russia, there are over 842,000 orphaned children under the age of 16 in government-run orphanages. It is estimated that 90% of Russia's orphaned children are social orphans. Their parents are still living. The desperate condition of Russia's economy and the scourge of alcoholism has created generations of these orphans without parents. With no viable support system, orphanages are the default destination for these children at a rate of 113,000 every year. Orphans face each day with the knowledge that their mother and father gave them away. Most of these parents never have their parental rights reinstated, and their children hope against hope that their parents will one day return for them. After spending their childhood in institutions, they are forced to leave the orphanage, often as early as age 14. Leaving behind the only security they have ever known, they are cast into the world alone. With no father to guide them, no mother to love them, where is the hope for these children? In 1994, after the fall of the Iron Curtain, George Steiner visited a Russian orphanage for the first time, and his heart grieved for the children. His response to what he saw there was to create an organization dedicated to orphan outreach. Children's Hope Chest is now a recognized world leader, partnering with churches throughout the United States in long-term commitment to the emotional, medical, educational, and spiritual well-being of orphans. Through their sponsorship program, 80 of these children have been in the loving care of Centerville United Methodist Church since 2003.
Ніви жати рощі гол, от води туманный сырь, колесом за синий гор. Солнце тихо скатилось, дремлет взрытые дорог. И сегодня
We pulled up to the orphanage, and I just remember the very bumpy road. I remember seeing the orphanage for the first time. It was a large concrete building that just seemed cold.
They just came pouring out of the orphanage, all these children. So, they were all smiles, and they just were so happy to see us.
And I don't think anything could really prepare you for this. It's just how hungry these children were to be touched and to be loved. That feeling was just so overwhelming and overpowering for me.
I remember, seeing some of the bars on the windows, and then going up the steps, how the steps were in disrepair. This large metal door with no window.
That black door just slams behind you, and it's just kind of a reality, like, okay, we're here. Here you are in this kind of ugly place, but yet you have this treasure of these kids in there. They're full of life, they're full of love, and you just can't do anything but reciprocate.
I literally just heard a voice in my left ear that said, go to Russia. And so I said, okay, I guess I'm supposed to go. You know, went through a process with Mission Council and they approved it and said, go forward with it. So it started from there. We started planning for our first step, which would be an assessment trip to visit different orphanages to select which one we felt we were called to. We visited each orphanage for part of a day. It was just an incredibly moving experience. So we prayed in the plane on the way home, and we felt that God was leading us to orphanage number 1. It seemed pretty clear to me that Children's Hope Chest was meant to be a partnership with us. The congregation just responded amazingly. There was like a rush on sponsoring the kids that Sunday, and within 2 weeks we had all of the kids sponsored. Sponsorship involves financial sponsorship of $30 a month, praying for your child, and exchanging letters with your child.
These children have so little that it's just so important to them to get the letters from us. It just lets them know that someone really cares about them.
It's the first question we get. Do you have a letter for me? Has my sponsor written me?
These kids just wait for our letters and they depend on them. It's a sustenance for them. It's a lifeline, it's a love line.
They stand there with anticipation, these children that have so little.
They're so proud when they get the letters. You know, they're showing each other. The best thing is if the sponsor sends pictures of themselves and their families. They love having something to look at, and it just makes them feel so important.
These kids want letters. They want to know that they're not forgotten.
Just them knowing that someone cares about them and that someone writes to them and is concerned about their well-being, their future.
I had said, I know you forgot me, but I'm just writing to say hi. And his letter said, no, I have not forgotten you. I think of you every day. I want you to come. I want to see your face.
We bring as much as we can to the orphanage, and it's a range of things. It's staples that include clothing and vitamins and all of the other things that these kids need that really isn't provided for them.
If you convert rubles to dollars, they basically get about $1, let's say about $1.50 a day per child for food, supplies, and so obviously that does not go very far.
Blankets that were made by the UMW group. Every child had their own individualized fleece blanket that most of them are still on their beds a year later.
Towels and more clothes and underwear and socks.
Backpacks filled with school supplies for each of the kids.
Medicine, they will go through that in no time flat and they'll need it again.
We brought each kid a personalized photo album to keep all of their precious memories in.
Every single penny that we raise for this program goes directly to benefit these children.
We've provided a lot of financial help to the orphanage, but the real key is the relationship.
I think for anyone, a relationship, at least at some level, is about hope and the future, and that somebody cares.
Some churches go 3 times a year, and that's when you can really leave the kids and they know that you're going to be back in a relatively short time, and you really have that ongoing relationship.
They're looking for and they need the sort of one-on-one connection. They need someone in their lives that they know is thinking about them.
She just said, I can't wait for you to come and be here and sit next to me so I can talk to you like we did before. The kids just became so important to me. I've got their pictures on my refrigerator.
I keep all their birthdays on my calendar.
I think these kids saw that not only we loved them, but we came back.
It is a very emotional mission because, again, you are involved with children.
You really felt God's presence there, at least I did. You know, it was just literally just pouring, raining sunshine. And, you know, there was children all over the place just laughing and playing, and there was, like a soccer game, and there was people playing sidewalk chalk, and there was people, running with a kite. And for that moment, for whatever it was, it took you away from the reality that these kids are in.
It's hard to describe to someone who hasn't been how this experience could change your life.
They have such a way of getting into your heart and just staying there.
The important thing is to be, in the mix and hanging out and meeting as many kids as possible. The kids just want to sit and talk and hug and play games. Just throwing the football with a boy who has never thrown the football.
You really feel truly fulfilled when you're over there and you feel like you're in the right place, doing the right thing.
One of the the biggest moments that I had was actually the second time that I went to Russia. Our first day there, we were unpacking everything in the room that was designated for us. And all of a sudden, there's a knock on the door, and they're like, "BJ, there's someone here to see you." I'm like, "Great, I can't wait because I'm excited to see all these kids." And one of the girls I had bonded with, her name was Oksana. And I remember Oksana, once that door opened, she came just running straight for me across that room, tears in her eyes, and just flew into my arms, held on so tight. And we were that way for probably about 5 minutes. And she kept saying over and over something in Russian that I didn't understand, but it didn't matter. And then later, one of the translators said that she was telling me that she had prayed to God that I would come back and that her prayers had been answered. And that meant so much to me because I didn't realize the impact that I had on any of these children. And I also didn't realize the impact that they had on me.
I didn't realize before going over that this is something that I would continue to carry with me. One of the girls who I got to know pretty well, she's young, she's 8 years old, and she said something to the interpreter, and I could tell just from her facial expression that it was something kind of serious. Because she would smile a lot and just very loving and lighthearted. And the interpreter looked at me and she said that Aliana had said, "I don't have a mother." And I really was just, I was frozen. I didn't know what to say really or how to respond to that. And all I knew to do was just to give her a hug and tell her, that I loved her. And I think that it's so important that we continue to keep going over to see these kids because truly many of them have no family at all. They have no material things. They do have each other, but for us to tell them that they have God's love and that they have the love of their Father, it's so important.
On my first trip there was this little girl named Nastia, and she really just, for whatever reason, took a liking to me and latched on to me. And she would hug me multiple times, during the day. And I would pick her up, and I always remember that she would just let her legs dangle. And, it just touched me so much to think this child has not even been held enough that she knows that she's supposed to wrap her legs around me. It breaks your heart every time, but it's, it made the hug that much more special.
Some of these kids, I think, have never known love.
They just need, the human touch and that knowing that someone cares about them.
And they have nothing and they're giving you everything they have.
We do crafts and things for the kids because it's a fun thing to do and it's something for them to keep. When you're getting ready to leave at the end of the trip, your pockets are filled because they insist that you take the crafts and the special things that they've made so that you won't forget.
There are children out there searching for love, searching for respect, searching for themselves.
You can really get your arms around the little cuddly ones, but you can make a pretty strong argument that it's the 15, 16, and 17-year-olds that probably need it more.
And they're harder to reach, and you can reach them, you definitely can reach them, but it takes more time to build trust.
They're one of the hardest groups to actually get to, and that's the way that I found that I think that's my role in this thing, is to get in touch with some of the older boys and try to, befriend them. And, it presents a lot of good one-on-ones because, we can be playing soccer, we can play volleyball, and, we can be talking about things and whatnot, and it's a good place to witness to them.
The kids in the orphanage are amazingly happy for what they've been through. They're still happy kids, and there's so much hope for them. But when they leave the orphanage and they go out into those conditions, they lose hope very quickly.
At the age of 14 or 15 years old, orphans are required to leave. We might call it a graduation, although it's not a graduation as we would think of it. It's not a celebration. It's the most critical day of their lives. It's the day when any security they've ever known is taken away from them. The transition from life within an orphanage to the real world can be terrifying to a teen. A lifetime of dependence on others and the lack of daily living skills create an inability to make confident decisions.
And now knowing these children, I can't imagine my kids being out there not having the knowledge on how to budget money, how to cook a meal, how to find an apartment, or having to worry where to live. You know, where are they going to find a roof over their head or food for, for their next meal?
Their difficult circumstances are aggravated further by psychological challenges, such as low self-esteem, lack of communication skills, attachment disorders, and a high level of mistrust for adults. Yet these children are expected to successfully integrate into Russian society. Success is statistically rare for orphans. Most fail to continue their education, find and keep jobs, locate and maintain housing, or build healthy relationships.
70% of the children that graduate will either turn to crime or prostitution or will end up in jail.
And 15% commit suicide within 2 years of leaving the orphanage.
By virtue of their low social standing, older orphans are denied passage beyond the 9th grade. Their ability to dream is cut short early as well. Labels like cook, seamstress, mechanic are placed beside their names. Trades assigned to them if they want to have a roof over their heads. With no other option to life on the street, orphans are forced to attend and live in technical schools. Dingy and crowded, most are ill-equipped to prepare orphans for adult life or gainful employment. These overcrowded dormitories are